This video is to explain some of the questions and concepts in the lesson Understanding Speed. In this first problem, we're given a speed of 25 meters in 15 seconds. So I start off by setting up a fraction where I have my distance, 25 meters, in, which means over 15 seconds. So that's the speed that I know. I can travel 25 meters in 15 seconds. Then they ask me, what is my speed to the nearest tenth? Always want to pay attention to that because that tells you how you're going to round your final answer. Of a meter per second. Meter per second means I want my final answer to be a number of meters per second is per 1 second. So I want my denominator to be 1 second. First thing you should always pay attention to is the units. We have meters on top in our given speed, and we have meters in the speed that we want. So we do not need to do anything to change the units in the numerator. Look at the units in the denominator. We have seconds on bottom. We have seconds on bottom. So here, we're not using any conversion factors to change the units. We're just simply trying to go from this many meters in 15 seconds to the number of meters in 1 second. So to do that, we're using equivalent fractions. To get from 15 to 1, I have to divide by 15. What I have to do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 25 divided by 15 will give me the speed in meters per second. 15 goes into 25 one time, multiply, subtract. So we know it's at least 1 meter, but we need to continue dividing to be able to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to add a decimal in both my quotient and my dividend, and then a 0 to bring down my 0. 15 divides into 100 6 times. 15 times 6 is 90. Subtract 10. Bring down another 0. I get 100 again. So I'm going to continue getting 6 each time. So now let's go back and look. What is my speed to the nearest tenth of a meter? If I want speed to the nearest tenth, that's the first decimal place. I have to look to the right. If the number to the right is 5 or more, then I round my tenths place up. So my speed to the nearest tenth is 1.7 meters per second. If they ask me to round to the nearest meter, then I would look for the whole number 1, look to the right, and that would round up to 2 meters per second. So 1.7 meters per second. And we didn't have to do anything to convert units here. All we had to do was take the given number of meters and divide by the number of seconds to create that unit rate of how many meters per 1 second. Alex determined that his average speed when he commuted to work is 35 miles per hour. 35 miles per 1 hour would be my first fraction. What conversion factor can be used to convert his speed to a final answer of feet per hour? So if we wanted a final answer of feet per hour, again, let's look at the units. Miles would have to be converted to feet. Hours would not change. It would stay hours. So what we would need to change is from miles to feet. So we would have a conversion factor, which is what you've learned about in the previous lessons, is how to multiply by a conversion factor. A conversion factor is a fraction that represents the equivalency between miles and feet. You need to know that there are 5,280 feet equal to 1 mile. I can write this as two separate fractions. I could either put 1 mile on top and 5,280 feet on bottom, or I could put 5,280 feet on top and 1 mile on bottom. Either way I write this fraction, these fractions are equal to 1 because these are equivalent distances. So we're just multiplying by a fraction that is equal to 1. The fraction we choose to multiply by needs to cancel the miles and leave feet in the numerator. So there's two ways to look at that. The only way to cancel miles is to have miles on top and miles on bottom. That's the only way you can cancel out that unit so that you no longer have miles in your answer. Another way to look at it is if you want feet left in your answer as the numerator, then that means you're going to want feet in the conversion factor as the numerator. So again, miles on top cancels if we have miles on bottom, and we should see feet left in the numerator. Now we take what we started off with. We know 5,280 feet is equal to 1 mile. So we put the number 5,280 with feet and the number 1 with miles. So this is the conversion factor that we would use that would allow miles to cancel and my answer be in terms of feet. If we were to continue this problem, we would do the multiplication with the fractions now. 35 times 5,280 would give me the number of feet, and 1 times 1 is 1. So I would just need to multiply 35 times 5,280 to get the number of feet per hour. Given the speed 280 centimeters per minute, let's convert that to centimeters per second. So I'm going to start with a fraction, 280 centimeters per 1 minute. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I want my answer in the nearest centimeters per second, means per 1 second. So let's look. Centimeters on the top doesn't change. So we're not doing anything to cancel centimeters. Centimeters stays centimeters. When we look on the bottom, we want our answer in terms of seconds, and we were given a speed in terms of minutes. So that's where we need to come up with a conversion factor that would allow me to convert minutes to seconds. So I need to figure out what is the equivalency between minutes and seconds. 1 minute is greater than a second, and there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. We need to decide, how do I set up the conversion factor so that minutes cancels and I'm left with seconds on bottom. Since minutes starts off on the bottom, I need minutes on the top so that it cancels. Since seconds ends on the bottom, I need seconds on the bottom, so that's what's left on the bottom. Then I can put my numbers with it. 1 minute, so the 1 goes with the minutes, is equal to 60 seconds, so the 60 goes with the seconds. So we have now figured out that 1 minute over 60 seconds is the conversion factor. That conversion factor allows minutes to cancel. And the only thing I see left is centimeters on the top and seconds on the bottom, which is exactly what they asked for, centimeters over seconds. Now I just need to do the math with the numbers. So in the numerator, I have 280 times 1 And in the denominator, now that I have numbers there, I have 1 times 60, which is 60. So my current answer right now is 280 centimeters in 60 seconds, which should make sense because 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So all we've done is we've rewritten this as 280 centimeters in 60 seconds, but that doesn't give me an answer in centimeters per second, because when they say centimeters per 1 second, like they mean centimeters per second is centimeters per 1 second. So to get from 60 seconds to 1 second, I would need to divide by 60. Whatever I divide the numerator by, I'm going to divide the numerator by the same thing. Whatever I'm dividing one by, I have to divide the other by the same thing. So let's divide. This is a division problem anyways. 280 divided by 60. 60 times 4 is 240. Subtract. I get 40. I can keep dividing by putting a decimal and bringing down a 0. 60 times 6 is 360. Subtract. Oh, I got 40 again. So even when I bring down another 0, I'm going to keep getting 6. So my answer is 4.6. Repeating. Let's go back and look at the question. What is the speed to the nearest centimeter per second? That would mean round to the whole number. 4.6 rounds to 5. So 5 centimeters per second. What is the nearest tenth of a centimeter? So if I have 4.6 repeating, I want to round to the tenths. Look to the right. It's 5 or more, so that would be 4.7 centimeters per second. Okay, let's look at another example. This is speed is 3,200 feet per hour. This first question, let's do the first question. What is the speed in miles per hour? So over here, I want miles per hour. So notice what's changing. Hours stays the same, but we need to convert from feet to miles. If feet is on the top, feet has to be on the bottom. If I want miles left in my answer on the top, miles has to be on the top. Then I need to decide how many feet are in a mile. There are 5,280 feet, so that goes with feet in 1 mile. So there were 2 steps here. First, deciding where to put units so that feet cancels and I'm left with miles. Then deciding how many feet are in a mile and being sure I put the numbers with the correct thing, and knowing that there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Wherever I put feet, 5,280 has to go with that. Now I can multiply. 3,200 times 1 is 3,200. 1 times 5,280 is 5,280. So then this turns into a division problem. So now I know I need to divide 3,200 divided by 5,280 to be able to get my answer in miles per hour. 5,280 doesn't divide into 3,200 because it's too, 3,200 is too small. If I do 32,000 divided by 5,280, I get 6. 6 times 5,280 is 31,680. When I subtract, I get 320. Bring down another 0. And again, I get a 0 here because when I brought down a 0, I got 3,200 again, which meant It wasn't big enough to divide. So my answer in miles per hour would be 0.6 miles per hour.